everyone, it's your friendly neighborhood demigod lover here, and today it is Pride Month, so we are talking about queer characters in the Riordanverse. And also queer characters in general, just because. Over the years, there have been a lot of queer characters in the media, but one region of the media that has little to no queer characters is kids media. That means kids books, kids TV series, kids movies, etc. Now I'm going to point out, just because there's a queer character in a piece of media that is directed at kids does not mean it counts as queer representation for kids. For example, My Little Pony. My Little Pony has a huge brony community of adults and teenagers who watch the show, and there are two background characters who are canonly lesbians. And this is something that many people in the brony fandom have noticed, but it's really just in a bunch of background clips and stuff like that. It's not something that a kid would notice unless an adult specifically points it out to them. That doesn't count as queer representation for kids. I mean, it's great, it's still queer representation, and it may be in a kid's piece of media, but ultimately it's for the adults and teenagers who watch that piece of media. So it's not really queer representation for kids. There's also a split-second moment in the live-action Beauty and the Beast where one of the characters, LeFou, is seen dancing with another man. But again, it's a blink and you'll miss moment, and it's something that a lot of kids would not pick up on unless it was specifically mentioned to them. But that does raise the question, why is this representation important? Well, for the same reason that it was important when Tiana from Princess and the Frog was made African American. It's to give all types of kids representation, not just straight white guys. Also, it's important for straight white kids so they can understand that not everyone is like them, that there are all different types of people in the world, and to understand that just like white people, black people can be heroes too. In a similar way, queer portrayal would help straight kids to understand that not everyone is straight, and that's okay. Gay people can be heroes too. That's why representation in kids media is important. Representation that kids can actually understand is important. However, we don't have very much of this representation. The Riordanverse presents some of the few exceptions to this, and I'm sorry that this is backwards, my camera's being an idiot. With many queer characters presented over the years. The first being Nico D'Angelo. Now what I like about Rick Riordan's queer characters is not only is he not afraid to include a lot of queer characters in books that are primarily directed at children, but also the fact that they're queer actually has relevance to their characters. Nico has to overcome a lot of shame in refusing to accept who he is. Alex Fierro was thrown out by her father for being gender fluid. P.S. Please do not refer to Alex as a they. Alex even specifically says that he does not identify as a they, so please do not refer to Alex Fierro as a they. Understand? Great. Okay, so the point is, there are a lot of queer characters, and for some of them, the fact that they're queer actually has relevance to their characters. It is not mentioned in some indirect way that kids can't understand. It's said pretty blatantly, and with main characters nonetheless. Nico was already a fan favorite by the time he admitted he was gay. So people were kind of left with this option of either you accept him or you go yourself. Now, when House of Hades was first released, there were a lot of counteracting opinions on the fact that Nico was gay. Some people were totally accepting of it, some people were totally unaccepting of it, but a lot of people stood in this kind of middle ground, where they were not mad at Rick Riordan and they weren't like boycotting the book, but they were clearly against the idea of Nico being gay. There was an obvious homophobic undertone to everything they were saying, and they were basically trying to reason with the extreme homophobes. They were basically telling the extreme homophobes, hey, look, I'm not really happy about this either, but let's not get mad. But they were still very obviously against the idea of Nico being gay. They were basically just trying to justify it by saying things like, oh, Nico's feelings for Percy weren't really romantic, he had adoration for Percy and really admired and idolized him, so he kind of thought he liked him even if his feelings for Percy weren't really romantic at the core. Which, I'm sorry, did we read the same book? He pretty blatantly says, I had a crush on Percy. In front of the love god. You can't lie to a love god about love. There's even a part of the book where Favonius says you cannot lie to Cupid. So his feelings for Percy were absolutely romantic at the core, but whatever, we're moving on. People would also say things like, oh, it doesn't matter because Nico's not a major character. He kind of is, but whatever. Or they would say things like, it's not really relevant, you can just skip that chapter, it's not super important to the story, there's no like same-sex couples in the series, and there's no like same-sex kissing. Rick Riordan basically had a bunch of homophobic parents defending him saying, oh, well, I'm not happy about the fact that Nico's gay either, but let's not like boycott the book for it, let's still like let our kids read it, etc., etc. And Rick Riordan just straight up proceeded to debunk all those people's arguments. Nico's feelings for Percy weren't romantic, proceeds to have Nico tell Percy to his face that he used to have a crush on him. Nico isn't a major character, proceeds to give Nico a very big role in Blood of Olympus. You can skip the scene because it isn't relevant to Nico's character, proceeds to make it very important to Nico's character development in Blood of Olympus. There are no same-sex couples, proceeds to very strongly hint at and then later canonize Will and Nico being together. There's no same-sex kissing, proceeds to eventually give us a same-sex kiss in the books, which, now that I think about it, the first same-sex kiss in the series was between Apollo and Commodus. Point is, if you are up to date on the stuff that Rick Riordan is writing now, so that's Trials of Apollo, either you've changed your homophobic views, you never had homophobic views, or you have long been scared away from the series. Rick Riordan did not want the support of the homophobes. All these homophobes were giving people reasons to say, okay, well, I'm not happy about Nico being gay, but I'm not gonna scream about it, and Rick Riordan proceeded to debunk all those people's arguments. He's like, no, you're gonna be fully accepting of these characters who are queer, or you can go away and I don't want you anywhere near anything that I write. And I seriously admire that. Rick Riordan is amazing. And also, again, these are kids' books. He wasn't afraid to do this with kids' books. He knew a lot of people wouldn't be happy about it because apparently there's some sort of conversation you need to have with your kids about the fact that gay people exist. I've never understood why parents feel like their kids need to wait until they're a certain age to acknowledge that gay people exist. Like, parents feel like there's this particular conversation they need to have with their kids about the fact that gay people exist. How exactly do you see that conversation going down? There are some boys who like boys, they're called gays. There are some girls who like girls, they're called lesbians. There are some people who don't like to be referred to as the gender that they are assigned at birth. It is really very simple. Why is there a particular conversation you need to have with your kids about that? And why do you need to wait till they're a certain age to have that conversation? Also, Rick Riordan does not get nearly as much recognition as he deserves for including so many queer characters in children's media. Yes, there is a large teenage audience of the books, but they're still primarily directed at children. Pixar could never. Your average Pixar movie basically is the same age demographic as Rick Riordan's books, and yet they get like 30 articles written about the fact that they happen to include one character in one scene who mentions in passing conversation that she is gay. And it's all of a sudden made this big deal, while Rick Riordan is over here having main characters who are gay, characters whose sexualities and gender identities are important to the story, and he does not get the recognition he deserves for it. Like, let's just applaud this man. Now, he's not the only author to include gay characters in children's books, but he's just one of the only ones. I do find it worth it to point out that in this comic book drama written by Raina Telejimir, I'm very sorry, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, but there are some gay characters in this book, and yeah, that's really great. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. Thank you, Rick Riordan, for including so many diversities in your books and giving a voice to so many diversities, not just queer people, but all diversities. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. This has been the Demigod Lover. Peace out.